Palestinians have been being genocided in Gaza for years now. I mean, before even the October 7th retaliation, we have seen a level of human rights abuses rarely seen anywhere else in the globe. It's definitely seen, but rarely anywhere else in the globe in Gaza and in Palestinian territories. This has ranged from Israel actively sending settlers out to claim Palestinian lands, the IDF engaging in fairly widespread destruction of civilian infrastructure and having very little accountability, if any, for civilian casualties, of which there have been many, in, mind you, a country made up of mostly minors, very young people. With that in mind, it's very hard for the last however many years that you have been paying attention to this situation, it's been very hard to make excuses for Israel. Generally, when you hear someone saying, oh, but Israel, they're like a nationalist, an Israeli nationalist, basically. More often than not, that's the case. They tend to be Israeli nationalists. And when there is a situation, even with how bad October 7th was, when there is a situation where you've got countless Palestinians dying, well, not countless, it's countable, but a lot of Palestinians dying, very few Israelis dying, and the scales are so tilted in who has the power and who has the ability to do the most harm to the other party, it's really hard to say, oh, but you have to understand, but Israel, it comes off as, and oftentimes is, disingenuous. However, despite everything that I just said being absolutely true, there is nuance to the situation. If you fast forward, or I guess you would rewind far enough, Israel exists, or at least most of its population is there, primarily because in the majority of Middle Eastern countries adjacent to Israel, at some point, heavy discrimination against Jews became, if not commonplace, literally legally ordained. And because of that, Israel's policy for a very long time, since its inception as far as I know, has been open the doors for all of the world's Jewish population who wants to take up citizenship in Israel. And the idea that most Jews have when it comes to Israel's existence is that should anything like the Holocaust, should anything like that ever happen again, mind you, Jewish people are the most hate crimed and discriminated against minority on the planet as far as I'm aware. Correct me if I'm wrong. So the idea is if anything like that is ever at risk of happening again, Israel exists as a, yeah, but no kind of thing, you know, like just easy, go ahead and just go over to Israel and escape, right? Which is why for a lot of Jewish people, American and globally, it is kind of a scary idea to criticize Israel, especially to the degree of saying that it's a illegitimate state, right? Half of the world's Jewish population lives in Israel as well, also worth considering. And because of this, even though genocide is bad, is not a complicated situation, there are complicating factors. For instance, Hamas does exist. Hamas does attack Israel's population. Withdrawing any, all federal funds towards Israel when it's one of our biggest allies and also has half the world's Jewish population and making it easier for a terror group that has slogans centered around killing Jews to do exactly that would not be a good look. And it would not bode well for whichever party did that would never get the Jewish vote in America ever again, to be very clear. Israel has a lot of influence, both because of money, because of politics, but also because America's Jewish population doesn't want Israel to stop existing. The world's Jewish population doesn't want Israel to stop existing. But that does not change the fact that Israel should not be allowed to expand itself by stealing land from Palestinians. It should not be able to just bomb children's hospitals and schools and kill countless Palestinians without any repercussions or consequences. And nor should we ignore the fact that the literal president, or I guess prime minister, Netanyahu, literally has a warrant out for his arrest should he ever set foot, and I think it's any UN country, because he's literally found guilty of war crimes by the and crimes against human rights by the International Criminal Court. Like, to be very clear, these are not things I'm ignoring. These are not things I'm covering up. I'm just getting this all out there. Despite all that, though, and the fact that I concur that Israel has problems and needs to be, like, strong-armed, usually with threats to withdraw funding into ceasefire and no longer engaging in the settlement expansion and settlement building, the IDF needs to chill the fuck out, all that shit, right? Even though I agree with all that, there have been a lot of cases where the pro-Palestinian side, quote-unquote, I strain to call it that side because I consider myself on the pro-Palestinian side. But there are members of the pro-Palestinian side who are not simply of the opinion that, hey, can we stop genociding like Palestinians, please? They do want that, or at least they are most loud about that opinion, but they also believe Israel is a fully illegitimate state that should not exist. It's like, well, that's a scary idea. You even get the radical ones that are willing to outright say anyone who says that Israel should be allowed to exist is evil and should die. You oftentimes hear that from Hassan's community. You can imagine that people whose engagement with this situation is that level of LARPy, and you don't see a lot of these people anymore, but back like 5 months ago, they were all over the place, like encampments on every college campus in every blue state in the country. You couldn't get from one end of campus to the other in a lot of college campuses, according to friends that I have that are that went to school around that time. You couldn't get from one end of campus to the other without seeing a bunch of encampments protesting Israel. But they were all protesting Genocide Joe and Genocide Kamala, right? Because that was the administration in power while all of this has been going down. All the while, though, Donald Trump has ran on an extremely war-hawkish, we need to eviscerate Hamas and clear out Gaza set of policies. All the while, Biden fought and then succeeded in achieving a ceasefire that Donald Trump, who has now taken office, is threatening to destroy if Hamas doesn't turn over all of the hostages by a set date. Then the ceasefire is done and Israel is allowed to go ham on Gaza. As all of this happens, after Trump has taken office, after months and months and months of chest beating about how evil and genocidal the Democrats are, Trump takes power. We have videos of him coming out saying Gaza needs to be cleared out, that they need to turn it into a beachside casino resort. Jared Kushner says the same. We've got, the genocide is on now. If you thought what was happening in Gaza before was a genocide, oh boy, is the genocide on. And if you didn't think it was a genocide already, it's about to be. Undeniably, it's about to be. And Trump has given the go-ahead. It was the policy he ran on. And now, all those people are quiet. There's no more encampments on these college campuses. No more big protests in the street. It's funny, these people protested the one person who would listen to their protesting out of office, and now there's someone in power who might just deport them for protesting. I can't really blame them for not protesting. We lost our right to do that effectively, at least on this issue. But you were the people arguing Genocide Joe, Genocide Kamala, don't vote for them, they're genociders, they're evil. And now it's about to get so much worse and everyone's quiet. I just think that's a little silly. I just think that's a little funny. Some people have argued, not me, but some people have argued that the silence from the pro-Gaza side of things, now that Trump has announced that full genocide, it's over, is imminent, is they're all quiet. An explanation I've heard is that it was all just a trend for that one summer. You know how every summer there's a big civil rights trend, and then no one's talking about it a few months later. That was that summer's civil rights trend, and it just trailed into the election and died once Trump took office. It really died down after election night, but completely died once Trump took office. Yeah. Like, listen, guys, we really need to lock in and learn how to be supportive of our party, man. We have to be supportive of our party. I get that we want to be critical and we want to make our party better, but frankly, we don't have that privilege. The idea of trying to make the Democratic Party better when we can't even get it into power because it's seen as too radical and left-wing by the American majority, the voting American majority, we need to get the Democrats in power before we can make them more left-leaning, especially when they're already considered too radically left-wing right now. We have to win a cultural battle, and it's going to take collaboration with Democrat politicians, our elected representatives, the media, mainstream, and new media. Like, it's going to take so much work, but it's going to take a cultural change to affect political electoral outcomes, and then we can protest the people in power who actually care about getting reelected by us strategically, not, say, for example, in the 3 months before the election, for instance, and then we can make some real change. But right now, the only change that's going to be happening for the next 4 years is worse change. And anyone who's been shitting on the party we needed to win in this election only has themselves to blame. I spent the last 4 years telling people why they need to vote Democrat and be proud, not shitting on Joe, calling him genocidal, and making people feel ashamed to vote blue. Anyway, let's check this out. What's happening? Trump doubles down on Gaza takeover idea as Israel threatens to restart the war with Hamas. That's right. Biden achieved the ceasefire, but hell, I have actually heard pro-Gaza people saying Trump did the ceasefire. But this ceasefire that's been happening since Biden's last few days in office was because of Trump. Which, honestly, it's hard to not believe that a lot of these lefty, like, hyper anti-Democrat Gaza people aren't just Russian bots when I see that kind of shit. It's like, really? You're falling for what Trump said? Like, hook, line, and sinker, no question? Anyway, let's watch.
Welcome to the News Hour. The fate of the ceasefire in Gaza appears fragile tonight after Israel today threatened to restart the war unless Hamas releases all Israeli hostages by Saturday. The overall fate of Gaza was the focus of an Oval Office meeting between President Trump and Jordan's King Abdullah, in which Trump vowed to, quote, take the enclave. Nick Schifrin reports.
Tonight on the outskirts of Gaza, Israeli troops are once again preparing for war. Hamas is threatening to delay an upcoming hostage release because it says Israel is withholding tents. So today, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu replied with his own threat.
If Hamas does not return our hostages by Saturday noon, the ceasefire will end and the military will return to intense fighting until Hamas is finally defeated.
The Hamas-Israel agreement, facilitated by the Biden and Trump administrations.
People on the left and right are going to gaslight you endlessly that the ceasefire was Trump's doing, and that this is no different than what would be happening if Kamala had gotten reelected. A lot of them have been trying to argue that whenever they're caught and trying to cope. Do not let them get away with it. They're trying to gaslight you. Biden achieved the ceasefire after like 2.5 straight years of nonstop ceasefire negotiations and achieving ceasefires. Hamas breaks them, Israel breaks them, trying to negotiate another one. Like, he's literally achieved like 25 ceasefires. This one has lasted, but none of them were ever, like, Biden was never given credit for any of them. Now they're trying, even the lefties are trying to give Trump credit for a ceasefire Biden managed to achieve on his last days in office, simply because primarily a lot of the continued breaking of the ceasefires over the course of Biden's administration had to do with Netanyahu recognizing how much that made Dems not want to vote for for Biden or Kamala. And obviously Netanyahu explicitly wanted Trump to win, because if Trump wins, then he can just go all out, cleanse Gaza, game over, right? But if the Dems are in power, then at worst for the Palestinians, it would have to be a slow slow process of a genocide and clearing out, which is, I would argue, less bad than, well, Netanyahu now has free reign to just ethnically cleanse Gaza in a month. I think it was better when Dems were in power, personally. I think less dead Palestinians is good. Unfortunately, no dead Palestinians isn't an option, so less dead Palestinians is what I went for. Just my personal preference.
Called for the gradual release of hostages over months. The new deadline was first set by President Trump after he saw the condition of released Israeli hostages.
They are emaciated. They look like Holocaust survivors. So I don't want to do two.
Trump, Hamas is not Gaza, nor all Palestinians, okay? The majority of Gaza's population are like 15-year-olds who weren't even alive when Hamas took power in what was probably a sham election, frankly. That they probably weren't even democratically elected by the no longer the current population of Gaza of back then. So it's like, yes, Hamas is evil. They raped, mutilated, tortured. They absolutely did. They want to genocide Jews. They are evil. They are torturing hostages. They are holding on to them, starving them, raping them. Hamas is evil, like really evil. They just have less capacity to do evil than the IDF, so a lot of people don't really think them that threatening, but they are really bad. But that does not mean that the other, like 98% of Gaza deserves to be fucking cleansed. Remember, Jared Kushner wants to turn Gaza into beachside real estate.
And then we do another 2 in another week, and then we do 4 in 3 weeks. No. They either have them out by Saturday at 12 o'clock or all bets are off.
Trump spoke in the Oval Office with Jordanian King Abdullah and reiterated his vision of U.S. ownership over Gaza.
We don't have to buy. There's nothing to buy. We will have Gaza.
What does that mean?
No reason to buy. There is nothing to buy. It's Gaza. It's a war-torn area. We're going to take it. We're going to hold it.
Listen, guys, there's just no difference between this and Kamala Harris and Biden. There's no difference, of course. Totally no difference.
We're going to cherish it.
And Mr. President, take it under what authority? It is sovereign territory.
Under the U.S. authority.
Egypt's foreign
Under
minister
the
is
US
in
authority.
Washington, and Egyptian officials tell PBS NewsHour they're developing a, quote, alternative proposal. No displacement of Gazans. Local Gazans with no political affiliation would provide both security and governance, with the hope of transitioning to the Palestinian Authority.
Trump is promptly going to wipe his ass with the Egyptian proposal. I assure you. Zana, did you hear H3H3 cover Denham's talking about the rapes on October 7th, and Denham's only giggled over hearing it, claiming it's Biden's propaganda? What? Okay. Alrighty then.
On X this afternoon, King Abdullah wrote, "I reiterated Jordan's steadfast position against the displacement of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank. Forcing them to leave would be a war crime. But today, President Trump said all Gazans would choose to leave, and Jordan and Egypt would accept them."
I believe we'll have a parcel of land in Jordan. I believe we'll have a parcel of land in Egypt. They don't want to be there. They have no alternative. When they have an alternative, not one person will want to stay where they are. Nobody wants to stay there. They're living in hell.
In Gaza's Jabalia refugee camp,
I love that, like, it's the same deal with, like, the mass deportations, too. We're deporting them because their current jobs are exploiting them, so we're going to destroy their lives and, like, at the threat of violence, force them to leave the country. We're actually doing them a favor. That's why we have to make them leave at gunpoint, because they're so thankful for the favor. That's why we threaten them with guns to do it, because they're so thankful.
Suds might be living in the rubble, but they say they're not going anywhere.
We reject displacement, even if we continue living on rubble, the rubble of our homes, the rubble of our ancestors, the homes of our ancestors, our country that is dear to our hearts.
More than half of Gaza's 2 million people are children. Today, Jordan promised to evacuate 2,000 of the sickest, apparently convincing President Trump to drop previous threats against Jordan.
Look at how much damage Israel has done, dude. I mean, granted that, you know, this could be one bit of Gaza, but I don't think the rest of it looks much better. Man, is this North Gaza or is this Southern Gaza? Because last I heard, North Gaza was the least fucked and bombed and rubbled part of the region. Is this the more, like, hit southern or central part of Gaza, or is this northern Gaza? Is this what's left of, like, the least bombed part? Damn.
Jordan and Egypt.
It's
Mr.
bad.
President, would you still consider withholding aid to those countries if they don't accept your plans to accept
Well, I don't want to
Palestinians?
say that because we've had such a good relationship and we're doing so well just in the short time that we've been talking. I don't have to threaten with money. We contribute a lot of money to Jordan and to Egypt, by the way, a lot, to both. But I don't have to threaten that. I think we're above that. I do believe we're above that.
Trump's proposal has shocked the Middle East and is perhaps impossible to execute. But what it has done, put regional leaders on the spot to publicly come up with their own plan. For the PBS.
It's hard to blame people for turning to extremism when this is their life, even if their actions are condemnable. I don't make excuses for people who join Hamas. Because Hamas's motto is like, I might not be Hamas's. I think, which one is Hamas's? Because I'm thinking of the Houthis, which are one of Hamas's allies. The Houthi motto is a curse upon the Jews. That's one of Hamas's biggest allies. I think Hamas is like, do they have, is it just like curse upon the Jews as well? Is that theirs too? I think they have that one as well, if I'm not mistaken. And on top of that, a lot of them have raped the female Israeli hostages and the children among the Israeli hostages they took. Like there are some monsters in Hamas, okay? It's not all just a bunch of people forced by circumstance into terrorism. A lot of them are like, oh, Israeli prisoner, unspeakable thing time. You know, like they're a lot of them see Jews as subhuman, like borderline, like they basically see Jews the same way Nazis saw Jews. A lot of them do. So, like, to be clear, like, Hamas is not a good organization. The people who join Hamas are not good. There are plenty of Palestinians who are just out there trying to survive and not joining with Hamas. So I don't make excuses for the Palestinians that do. I just don't. I don't think there's an excuse. And don't play into the narrative of being pro-Hamas. Just don't. Don't let that narrative be played and made about you, okay? Fucking insane, man. I cannot believe that people honestly try to tell me that this is no different than if Kamala Harris had won. How delusional do you have to be? How like pretending to care about politics do you have to be to say that? I don't even know, man. Anyway, listen. If you enjoyed this segment, if you found it entertaining, educational, or in any way enjoyable, then please consider leaving me a like and a comment. It's totally free, and it helps the channel immensely. It really does mean a lot. And of course, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe and ring the bell icon to turn on all notifications so that YouTube actually tells you when I go live or upload a new video. Believe me, if you don't, YouTube won't tell you. They just won't. But of course, if you want to see more from me on other platforms, you can follow my social medias linked down below in the description. And of course, if you feel like it, you can afford it, and you want to support me directly, you can help me keep the lights on and a roof above my head here at the Xander Hall studio by donating, subscribing, or gifting a sub on my website, xanderhall.com/live, or you can support me financially through YouTube, Twitch, Streamlabs, Stream Elements, Patreon, or you can buy some Xander Hall custom merch through the Streamlabs link down below in the description. Regardless, though, I really do appreciate you watching. And no matter how you supported my content, I hope to see you again, and I hope you have a good one. I also hope to have a good one.